الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. I welcome you to our intensive class, the Tuesday class, which inshallah for this semester, if you like, is going to be the book of Salah, Kitab of Salah, from a very famous Hanbali textbook. And so before we begin, just a few words of introduction, not too long, about how to study fiqh and why should we study fiqh from a textbook, it's called in Arabic a matan of fiqh. So realize, my dear brothers and sisters, as we all know, that Islam has always been about law, and law has always been a part and parcel of our religion. And from the very earliest of times, the Sahaba, Tabi'un, Tabi'un, they attempted to extract laws in more details than what is generally mentioned in the Quran and Sunnah. The Quran and Sunnah did not come as a manual of law. It came as guidance, it came as specific laws, but it's not a manual. It's not like a book of law. So the verses pertaining to different aspects of fiqh are mentioned throughout the Quran. So later scholars came and they began to extract these verses and a hadith. And as we all know, this led to a slight difference of opinions in many issues. Over course of time, four general Sunni madhahib evolved. We all are aware of these: the Hanafi, Shafi'i, Maliki, and Hanbali. And these four schools weren't the only schools. There were more before, and there's still one or two others around. But these were the four that were given general acceptance in the ummah. And each of these four considered the others to be a legitimate attempt to follow Islamic law. So it's not a matter of basically each one is saying we are right and the others are wrong. Rather, these are all preferences, and each, as Imam Shafi'i famously said, that I believe my opinion to be right and the opinion of my fiqhi opponent to be wrong, but I concede the possibility that I could be wrong and he could be right. So this is the general philosophy of the madhahib, that look, I think this opinion is right, I'm pretty sure it is, but that's my opinion. And possibly my opinion could be wrong and the other opinion could be right. And therefore, as we said, historically, these four madhahib have evolved, and studying fiqh from the books of the madhabs is actually much easier and much more logical than studying fiqh directly from the Quran and Sunnah. Because directly from the Quran and Sunnah, this requires scholarship. There is no verse, for example, that combines all of the shurut of salah, all of the arkan of salah, all of the wajibat of wudu. There's no one verse that basically does all of inheritance. Similarly, in the hadith, there's no one hadith that combines all of this. So when you look at the books of fiqh, what the books of fiqh have done is that based on each of the madhabs, they've listed very simply for the beginning student and for the intermediate and for the advanced student what they should study in terms of law. So it's always beneficial to start studying fiqh from some of the mutun or the matan. It's called the textbooks of Islamic law. And I have chosen a textbook that is one of the standard introductory level textbooks of the Hanbali madhab. Okay, so textbooks are also divided generally into three categories: that which is for the basic introductory level, that which is for the intermediate, and that which is for the advanced. These are the general three categories. And I have chosen the Hanbali madhab simply because I am more familiar with it. That's the only reason. Otherwise, all of the madhab, alhamdulillah, are good, but my own, I've been exposed most to the Hanbali madhab. Okay, we're saying that the best thing to do for the introductory student is to begin with a basic text of fiqh, and each madhab has, over the course of time, centralized certain basic textbooks. You know, in any discipline, certain textbooks become more famous than others, right? In any discipline. You go into accounting, you go into medicine, you go into engineering, there's always, even though hundreds of books are written, what happens is the test of time, that certain books become popular. And in the Hanbali school, the book that I have chosen is one of the most popular books ever written in the Hanbali madhab, and it is called Al-Umdah. It is called Al-Umdah. And Al-Umdah translates in Arabic as the support or the backbone. This is what Al-Umda means. So Al-Umda is a basic textbook of Hanbali fiqh, and in fact, this entire book is a detailed summary of the Umda. So can you imagine? The Umda is just a booklet. And this book that I have, which is one volume, is a intermediate, I shouldn't say, it's an intermediate summary of the Umda. So the Umda, the actual book of fiqh, is just a little booklet, and you will be getting the entire Kitab al-Salah in English translation. It has been translated. You will be getting the entire Kitab al-Salah, and that is the goal to finish, inshaAllah ta'ala, in this series or seminars. And just a brief introductory note of who the author is, and just because you should know what these authors and textbooks are. So the author of Al-Umda is a famous scholar from Damascus, from Syria, who died in the year 620 Hijrah. So literally 800 years ago, 620 Hijrah, he passed away, and his name is Abdullah ibn Ahmad ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi. He is known as Ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi. That is his famous title, Ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi. And Ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi is quite literally perhaps the most famous Hanbali scholar of the entire 12 centuries of Hanbali fiqh after Imam Ahmad. That he is the one who has done, just like, for example, in the Shafi'i school, the most famous Shafi'i scholar after Imam al-Shafi'i is al-Nawawi, for example. Right? Imam al-Nawawi is literally like the most famous Shafi'i. So the equivalent of the Hanbalis of Imam al-Nawawi is Ibn Qudama. Okay, the equivalent of Imam al-Nawawi in the Shafi'i tradition of the Hanbali tradition is Ibn Qudama. And Ibn Qudama was born in what is now Jordan, in a place, in a small village in what is now the country of Jordan. And when he was a young child, the Crusaders captured that city. So his father had to flee with him as a young boy, and they sought shelter in the city of Damascus. The Crusaders never captured Damascus. And so he was raised, and he died in Damascus. But he studied for a number of years in Baghdad. He traveled to Baghdad as a young man, and he came from a line of scholars. The Maqdisis are known as the scholars of Syria in this generation. And they're called the Maqadisa. The Maqadisa, there's hundreds of Maqdisi scholars. But amongst them, he was the most famous. His father was a scholar, and he first studied Islam under his father, who was a scholar, and then he traveled the world and came back to Damascus. And Ibn Qudama wrote many books, at least 15 books he wrote. And these books spanned many disciplines. So he was an expert in fiqh. And Ibn Qudama has the most comprehensive curriculum for Hanbali fiqh. One of the few authors who really thought things through. And in fact, Ibn Qudama wrote 4 books of fiqh, of the Hanbali fiqh. Each one of them was meant at a different level. So he is the introductory level, and this is what we're doing, Al-Umda. This was for the beginner. So this would be the equivalent of, let's say, middle school, high school. They would be doing Al-Umda at the beginning level. Then there is the second level, that was Al-Muqni'. And Al-Muqni' was for intermediate level. And Al-Muqni' is a thicker volume. Then the third level is Al-Kafi. And Al-Kafi was meant basically for the advanced student. And then he had the fourth level, which was an encyclopedia. And it is called Al-Mughni. And Al-Mughni is considered to be one of the best books of fiqh ever written in the history of Islam. The same author we're going to study, his book Al-Umda is this thin. The other book Al-Mughni is literally that big. It is one of the largest encyclopedias of fiqh ever written in the history of Islam. And Al-Mughni, and it is my favorite book of fiqh. It is my favorite. If I have any issue I need to look up in an advanced manner, first book I turn to is Ibn Qudama's Al-Mughni. Why? Because Ibn Qudama summarizes all of the madhahib with their evidences. And then he also says, but the reason why the Hanbali madhab is right, because obviously he's a Hanbali, so every madhab is going to say their madhab is right. He goes, and the reason why we are right is because of X, Y, and Z. And he brings his evidences. So there is really hardly any book that is as encyclopedic as Al-Mughni. And there is one other book I'm just going to reference for you, you should know it, and that is Imam al-Nawawi. As we said, they're not contemporaries, but they are peers, if you like, in the sense that Imam al-Nawawi is the master of the Shafi'i madhab, and Ibn Qudama is the master or the codifier of the Hanbali madhab. Imam al-Nawawi wrote a similar book from the Shafi'i perspective. and that is called Al-Majmu'. And Al-Majmu' is now printed in, I think, 35, 36 volumes. It's literally, I'm not exaggerating, this big, Al-Majmu', Imam Nawawi. It's a massive encyclopedia. And Al-Mughni is a similar type of encyclopedia, but Al-Majmu' has more pages, if you like. These two books, our scholars say, are the pinnacle of advanced fiqh. There's nothing more advanced than this has ever been written. Both Al-Mughni and Al-Majmu' of An-Nawawi. In any case, I digress into another issue. We are not starting with Al-Mughni, don't worry. We are going to start with the very beginning, the very basic textbook, and that is, which one? What is it called? Al-Umda. You should all know the name of the textbook, because you should know we are doing Al-Umda. Now, Al-Umda, my methodology will be not to concentrate too much on the other madhahib. When I did the fiqh of tahara and the fiqh of wudu, was it last year? When I did the fiqh of wudu, so because the fiqh of wudu is a small chapter, so I decided to give you a taste of comparative fiqh. And we went over all of the madhahib and what each one said and what was their evidences. That was fine for a small chapter. But the book of Salah, Kitab Salah, which is what we're going to do, is always the longest chapter in the books of fiqh. There's no chapter longer than the book of Salah. And you will see why. Because there's so many issues pertaining to Salah. There is no chapter in the books of fiqh that is longer than Salah. So if we were to do Kitab Salah in a comparative manner, I kid you not, we would be spending years doing Kitab Salah. That we don't have time for that. And also I'll confuse you. The fact of the matter is, you don't need to learn all of the madhahib as an average Muslim. You just want to know how to worship Allah and move on. That's all it is. So we're just going to go over Kitab Salah from the Hanbali school, and that should be sufficient for you for your entire life. It's all you need to know. And even if you're not Hanbali, if you haven't studied the other madhahib, it's fine that you just take the Hanbali madhab in all of Salah. Don't pick and choose that one opinion Shafi'i, one opinion Hanbali. Don't pick and choose. In the chapter of Salah, keep yourself Hanbali if you want, and you will be fine, insha'Allah ta'ala. So we begin with the book of Salah, Kitab Salah, and you will get your